Okay, let's jump right in. If you're gearing up to tackle 7th grade modern world history, well, you're in exactly the right place. In this explainer, we're going to look at the blueprint of human history over the last 1,000 years or so. And honestly, more importantly, we're going to figure out why things happened the way they did. You're not just going to be memorizing dates here. You're going to be acting as a full-on historical detective. So we'll be mapping out this incredible journey of human societies, and we're going to break down these massive, world-altering concepts into bite-sized, visually clear pieces. So here's our chronological roadmap for this year. We're going to start with Unit 1, the Middle Ages. Then we'll move on to Unit 2, a changing world. Next is Unit 3, modern times. And finally, Unit 4, past and present. All right, starting off with Unit 1, the Middle Ages, a global view. How did medieval societies organize power, belief, trade, and daily life? This is the essential question that's going to anchor your whole investigation into medieval China, Africa, Japan, Europe, and the Americas. Now, when we talk about the Middle Ages, we aren't just talking about, knights in shining armor. We're taking a truly global view here. You'll be looking at how people in wildly different parts of the world answered the exact same fundamental human questions, like who's actually in charge? What do we believe in? How do we get the things we need? And really, what does just an ordinary Tuesday look like for these folks? To answer those questions, you really have to understand the foundational systems people lived under, specifically feudal and imperial systems. Think of these as kind of like the operating systems of the medieval world. Just like your phone has an OS that tells it exactly how to function, these societies used incredibly structured ways of organizing themselves, based heavily on land ownership, who held the power, and who owed service to who. You'll learn exactly how a peasant, a knight, a noble, and an emperor all fit together into this giant puzzle. For example, in medieval Japan, a samurai's loyalty was so binding, it literally defined their entire existence. It's a fascinating look at how deeply these systems controlled daily life. And look, you aren't just studying these civilizations in a vacuum, you're comparing them across the globe. You'll be analyzing how expanding trade networks started to, slowly but surely, stitch these distant societies together. Take the Silk Road, right? It didn't just move spices and silk. It spread revolutionary ideas and, even diseases. And perhaps most importantly, you're going to use geography to explain cultural development. I mean, why did a civilization up in the mountains develop totally differently than one on a sprawling river delta? Basically, geography is the stage where history happens, and you're going to see how the physical Earth totally shaped human destiny. Moving right along to Unit 2, a changing world, the power of ideas. Why do new ideas sometimes transform whole societies? Understanding the sheer power of new scientific and political ideas to spark massive change is absolutely crucial here. See, this isn't just about military conquest anymore. It's about the conquest of the mind. How does a single new thought like, hey, maybe the Earth actually orbits the sun, or maybe kings don't have a divine right to rule, how does that completely rewrite the rules of a society? This era is all about the explosive power of ideas. Let's see how this builds step by step. We're going to trace the domino effect of these 5 major eras to see exactly how one intellectual spark led to the next. It starts with the Renaissance, right? A massive rebirth of art and learning. And that questioning spirit, it leads right into the Reformation, which challenges religious authority. Once you start questioning religion, well, you get the Enlightenment, which challenges political authority and really champions science. Those new political ideas then directly fuel massive revolutions. And finally, all that scientific progress culminates in industrialization, where machines change how humans work and live forever. It's literally one continuous, unstoppable chain reaction. To really grasp what happens here, you're going to constantly compare the structured stability of the Middle Ages with the hugely disruptive reform movements of this changing world. Back in the Middle Ages, things stayed relatively the same for generations. You knew your place, you knew your role. But with modern transformation, society is suddenly reforming, rebelling, and reinventing itself at breakneck speed. It is a fundamental shift in the whole human experience. Now, here is where your application task on cause and effect really comes into play. Your main job is to become a total expert at tracing these complex causes and effects. Because history, it's never just random events happening for no reason. Every single revolution, every new invention, every major shift has a clear cause, and it creates a massive ripple effect. You'll apply this by comparing different reform movements to see what worked and what didn't. And you'll evaluate the massive, world-altering impacts of industrial change. I mean, when we started building factories and trains, it didn't just change our tools, it completely changed our cities, our environment, even our daily schedules. We quite literally went from living by the sundial to living by the factory punch clock.
Next up is Unit 3, Modern Times, Conflict and Connection.
How did conflict and connection shape the modern world? This question is going to guide our look at an era defined by huge global integration, but also devastating, world-altering wars. As the world became more industrialized, countries obviously became more connected than ever before. But as we know, connection doesn't always mean harmony. Actually, sometimes being closer together just creates a lot of friction. So this unit is all about understanding how the modern world was forged in the fires of both unprecedented global cooperation and, sadly, unimaginable global conflict. To make sense of this, you're going to need to clearly explain two major concepts, because they're basically the primary fuel for the conflicts we're about to study. First, imperialism. This is the powerful force of empire building, where strong nations seek to dominate weaker ones for resources and power. And second, nationalism. This intense, sometimes overwhelming sense of national pride and a really strong desire for independence or dominance. Let me tell you, when you mix the empire building of imperialism with the fierce pride of nationalism, you are essentially mixing gasoline and a match. So you'll be actively analyzing these massive global conflicts. Because of those forces of imperialism and nationalism we just talked about, the world plunges into World War I, then World War II, and finally the really tense, decades-long standoff of the Cold War. But as you investigate these events, you won't just be staring at battle maps. A huge part of your job as a historical detective will be to compare historical perspectives. Like, how did an empire builder view a territory differently than the people native to that land? Or how did a soldier in the trenches experience the world compared to a politician sitting at a desk? To truly understand history, you absolutely have to understand multiple perspectives. And that brings us to Unit 4, Past and Present, Connecting the Dots. Look, the ultimate goal of this entire explainer and the course itself is to use these historical tools to actually decode the contemporary world around you. We don't study history just to memorize trivia about dead kings and old wars, right? We study it because the world you live in right now, today, was entirely built by the events we just walked through. The borders of modern countries, the political tensions you see on the news, the global economy, the very fact that we can communicate globally in an instant, all of it is the direct result of those cause and effect chains you're going to be studying. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Keep this question in the back of your mind as you start this journey. Look around your world today. Where do you see the lingering effects of these historical conflicts, connections, and changes? When you read the news, or look at global supply chains, or see a debate about human rights, where do you see the fingerprints of the Middle Ages? Where do you see the lingering sparks of the Enlightenment, or the echoes of World War II and the Cold War? History isn't just a story about the past, guys. It's quite literally the instruction manual for understanding your present. Dive in, keep asking questions, and I promise you, you'll never look at the modern world the exact same way again.